Hi, I'm David Dickman, Senior Product Manager for Design Tools at Sybase. And today I'd like to talk to you about modeling and metadata management for enterprise architecture. To begin, I'd like to first take a look at what is enterprise architecture. Fundamentally, enterprise architecture is about these three things. First, it's about getting business and IT alignment so that we can have agility for effectiveness in responding to change. Second, it's about regulatory compliance. Now, not just being able to ensure that we've met the regulations, but also defending against an audit and having the traceability to do so. Enterprise architecture is also about preparing for whole business transformation. Here we're talking about big block change, moving from today's infrastructure to the infrastructure to be tomorrow. Now let's take a look at how Power Designer breaks down all the things we need to know to be able to achieve this vision. So here, we have a view of all the different types of models that Power Designer manages for us and where they belong in the enterprise architecture. Now first let's take a look at these different layers. For example, here we have the business layer, where we're understanding the business in pure business terms. Then we have the conceptual, logical, and physical layers, where we start reflecting the business back to itself in technology terms and drive down to the detailed implementation. We also have these different perspectives. We have our information perspective for our information architecture, our process perspective for our business architecture, and our technology perspective for our application architecture. So these different layers and perspectives start to make up a grid pattern. This is something a lot of you may have seen if you studied enterprise architecture frameworks. Things like the Zachman Enterprise Architecture or the architectural framework under TOGAF give us an idea of what types of things we need to put and where and when we're going to do that. Now this is really a generalized, simplified view of those frameworks for our purposes and easy understanding. So let's take a look at what Power Designer does for each of these places. We've got things like the conceptual data model. This is where we'll reflect the information concepts back to the business in business terms. But we'll use those structures to drive into the logical understanding of how we'll start to organize data for storage and the physical implementation where it'll go to the database. These different transformation layers will give us the idea of how to relate business down to information technology. We offer a similar set of models for the process perspective. We have the business process modeling at the analysis level, which understands the business processes in business terms. But again, those structures go into a platform-specific model, a business process model that starts to understand how process automation will be managed by technology. And then we have models that understand things like WSBEPL, the Web Service Language for Business Processes, to actually automate and orchestrate the business processes themselves. We also have, for the technology, the use of the object-oriented model. An analysis-level object-oriented model defines the key technology pieces and how they relate to each other. And that, again, can also be used to drive the more technical views, what the OMG would call the platform-independent model and the technical generating from the code platform-specific model. So all of these different models here represent different parts and different reasons for describing different aspects of the enterprise. Now, tying that all together at the top here, we have the business requirements model. Power Designer's business requirements model allows us to import and export from Microsoft Word and defines purely what are the business requirements and the motivations for developing the architecture. And then we have the enterprise architecture model itself, which is an abstraction, a series of composite models that understand how all these things roll up together to make the whole cohesive enterprise. Now, just having the right place to store the right kind of information at the right time is a good start, but what we really need to do is show how all of these things relate to each other. So the first set of the technologies that Power Designer brings to bear on this is the linking technology. What that's all about is taking what we know about the data information and being able to relate that to the processes that use it. This allows us to take the knowledge of what data is used by what process and store that intersection directly in the repository. We can also understand how the data model and the application relate, so where is the data used by the application and what data does that application need, as well as from the process perspective, what applications are used to fulfill the services required by those processes. So this link technology allows us to connect within each of these layers the different pieces that need to relate. So now when we need to see what the impact of change is within any of these layers, we have the visibility to do so. By the way, all of these links are bidirectional. So when I know what process uses what data, I also know what data is used by what process. So now that we tie all these things together, The next problem we want to solve is how do we go between the different layers? So here we have the idea of being able to generate a conceptual data model into a logical data model, the logical data model into the physical data model, and these transformations, the data in those transformations is also stored by Power Designer. So we remember the heritage. I can take any piece of implemented data and tell you what logical and conceptual models its definition was derived from. These are bidirectional and also many-to-many relationships. So I can have many logical models from the conceptual, many physical models from the logical. And this allows me to have a lot of freedom in defining and describing the whole of my enterprise. We also offer a similar set of transformations here and here. And this is starting to tie the entire framework together. So now we have link and sync technology. The last piece of this is being able to take the business perspectives and link them anywhere at any level that's appropriate for us to be able to take our architectural perspective and understand where it was derived from at any other piece of the architectural framework. So Power Designer Link and Sync technology takes your enterprise architecture framework and makes it more effective and more efficient to manage change, whether that change comes from competition, from regulatory compliance, or from technology. Thank you very much, and for more information or to download your evaluation version, please feel free to visit us at sybase.com/powerdesigner.